Welcome all. Today we are going to discuss about the static pod, why it's required to create a static pod and when it's required to create a static pod. So you can say this is the very important questions that will definitely come in a CKA exam. So it's come in a different way. I will provide you a complete scenario which covers all the types of questions in this particular slide. After that, we will do a hands-on by creating the static pod. So in this sessions, we are going to cover about the static pod, why it's required to create a static pod, and who will create a static pod. So a static pod is generally created by the kubelet because kubelet understand how to create a static pod in there if there is some disaster happen in the master node component. So generally, how we create a static pod? We create a static pod by putting that some definition file in a particular location. So we are going to discuss in more detail about the static pod in this particular session, and I will provide you all the scenario questions they will ask you in the CKA certifications exam. So the kubelet relies on the kube API for instructions on what pod to be loaded on the node. So whenever we try to create a pod, we provide the instructions to the Kube API server. So Kube's API server pass these informations to the scheduler to create a pod and registered or you can say store all the information into the etcd database, which is based on the decision made by the kube scheduler, which was stored in the etcd data store. So all the informations whatever is coming to the kube API server is stored into the etcd database at the same time. But the current session is about thinking about the situations like the master cluster is currently down, so we have only the worker node. So think about the scenario because we can't create a pod by executing the kubectl command. It's down, so we can't execute. We have to think in some other way. So we have the worker node and the kubelet is running on the worker node all the time. So we have to think in a way to put some definition file into a particular locations from where it read all the informations to create the static pod. So the kubelet can manage a node independently on the host. So you can, the host is the worker node. We have the kubelet installed, and of course we have the worker. We have the Docker as well for the container. So it may be the Rocket D or the container D, whatever the container tool we have. So there is no Kubernetes cluster. So there are no kube API server or anything like that. The one thing that the kubelet know to do is to create the pods. So kubelet will not create the deployment for you in that case, because the deployment creation part it will be done by the kube API server, which is currently down. So kubelet understand to create only the pod. By now we know that we create a pod. You need the details of the pod in a definition file. But how do you provide a pod definition file to the kubelet without the kube API server? So this is the main important things, that the kube API server is down and we are not passing any informations to the kube API server. So a static pod are managed directly by the kubelet. So you can say that for creations of the static pod, there is a one handler we have which handles to creations of the static pod, that is kubelet on a specific node. So we can't use the API server because it's down. and kubelet will only able to create a static pod, a pod that is known as the static pod, and kubelet watch all the time this pod, because whenever the pod get down, kubelet will restart it again. So if you try to delete the static pod by executing some command, it will show you that the pod get deleted, but pod will never get deleted, because this is not a simple pod. This is the static pod which is running by a file which is kept in a particular locations, that we will demonstrate you in the further hands-on further hands-on. Now we are talking, you can configure the kubelet to read the pod definitions file from a directory on the server designated to store information about the pod. This is very important thing. So we have to find the locations where to keep the file. We can't put the file at any place. Okay, this is the one thing that we have to find, but we can define any of the path where we want to put that file to run as a static pod. So we will look these things as well in the hands-on. The pods definition file in this directory, the kubelet periodically check this directory for the files. It's monitor all the times, either there is any definitions file exist in that particular locations. It will start and bring that pod running. So whenever there is something happens in the environment and static pods get down, it will bring it automatically. It's read all the files all the times. This is the responsibility of kubelet, and it's create the pods on the host the worker node I am talking about. Not only does it create the pod, it can ensure the pod running all the time. So this is the responsibility of the kubelet. It's try to run the pod all the time. If you remove a file from this directory, then only the static pod gets deleted. This is the only way in which you can remove the static pod from the particular node. So we will look how many types of questions you may ask in the CKA exam. So I prepared a scenario here, and in my exam also there are some questions that was related with the static pod. One questions you can definitely assume that it will come that will be related to the static pod. They will provide you all the informations, they provide for the general pod, like which image to use and what is the name of the static pod, something like that, and ask you to create a static pod. Suppose I mentioned a worker node as node 01, or they can ask you to create a pod in the master node. So whenever you create a static pod, the prefix will be the name of the node. Either it is the master node or it is a worker node. Suppose you have you want to create a static pod with the name ABC. So it will be something like ABC node 01 if you are creating any static pod on node 01. Similarly, if you are creating any static pod on the master node or control plane component, so it will be as ABC dash control plane master node name. So in this way you can identify the static pod as well. These things I will show you in the when we do the hands-on to create the static pod. They will ask you to delete running a static pod. So this you cannot delete it by running the any kubectl command. You have to identify the locations where the static pod definition file has been placed, and you have to remove it. So So you should be have understanding how to identify the particular definitions file for the static pod and then remove it. They will ask you to move a static pod. Suppose a static pod, they ask you that in this particular cluster there is a static pod running in a particular worker node, and you need to, they will ask you to move it from worker node to the master node, or from the master node to the worker node. So you have to identify where this particular definition file has been kept for the master node, and you have to move that file to the worker node by either you can remove it before removing, just copy the all the structure of that particular node and paste, create a file in the worker node at the same at the location where you identified, and create a node there. So create a pod that will be the static pod. So in this way you can move from master node to the worker node. The static pod can be moved. So in this way they will they put some tricky questions for the that will be related with the static pod. So the things are very simple. If you understand the concept, you can deal with any questions. But to be sure, they will ask you the static pod questions, at least one of low weightage, or maybe the 7% of the weightage. So I'm trying to cover all the questions that will definitely come into the exam. Like my first slide that I first session that I uploaded on the YouTube is related with the cluster update of upgrade of the master and the worker node. I also uploaded a video of the etcd backup. So all those questions which is important, I am bringing a slide for a slide and the presentations for you guys that will be help in the CKA exam. So please, if you not subscribed my channel yet, please do subscribe it. It will motivate me to bring some informative knowledge for you guys, that will be help for the CKA exam. Now I am jumping to the lab sessions to demonstrate all these things that we discuss in this particular sessions. So you better have understanding what is the static pod and how to identify where the static definition file has been placed, and in case we need to remove it, how to remove that particular static pod from a particular node. So now jumping to the lab session. Okay, so now start creating the static pod, but before that let's monitor the environment first. What currently we have deployed in the environment. You see it here, get deployment. So currently we don't have any deployment. Let's check the pod. We don't have any pods in the environment. Now kubectl, check for the namespace kube system get pod. This will list all the pods which is running in the kube system namespace. So you can see the etcd is currently running as a static pod. How we get these informations? Let's run one more command, kubectl get node. So we have currently two node, control plane and node 1. So any of the static pod that running in the control plane master node have the prefix of the master node name. You can see here the etcd all are running as a static pod. Etcd, the kube API, kube scheduler. So we have currently 4 pod which is running in the master component, master node as a static pod. Okay, so let's start by creating the static pod in a master node first. How we will do that? First, we need to identify the locations where we need to put the definition file for the static pod, because we are not going to, the static pod can't be created by using the command. So let's see how we can do it. We can do it through the command also, but we have to put the definition file into a particular locations. Grep for kubelet, because this is the only service or tools that is running the the static pod. So grep for the kubelet, and we need to check the configuration file there. So just check the conf file, and here it is. So this is the path. This is the YAML file in which we have the location for the static pod. So you can cat it, put the path there, and also grep for a static pod. Nothing, there is no result. Let's cat this file. Okay, so there is a typo. We need to, it's a case sensitive. So this is the path where we have to place the static pod. Clear the screen again. Jump to that locations where we need to create a static pod. So you can see that there is a TCP, Kube API, Kube controller, and Kube scheduler, which is deployed through using the KubeADM utility, and KubeADM utility deploy all the cluster code component as a static pod. We already discussed it. Now create one more file here. I know, name it as a static.yaml file. Okay, so write the command, write all the definition file here for the static pod. API v capital, version v1, kind will be pod, because we are creating the static pod here. Metadata, name it anything, means static master. Specs for container, which name we are going to, which image we are going to use. We are going to use BGBox. Okay, so what will be the name of that particular container? Anything that we require. Static. Okay, so we need to put some command to sleep for some seconds. Sleep this container for some seconds. Let's say for 1000 seconds I need to sleep this particular container. It should be running. Okay, that's it. Now just save this file. So static pod is now created at the particular locations. You can see that the static pod YML file has been created. Okay, that's fine. kubectl get pod. So you can see that one static pod currently running in the environment. This is known as a static master. This is the name of our static pod file, and this is running in the control plane node. That's why the name is got prefixed postfixed in the name of the static pod. So you can identify in this way. Okay, this is a static pod that running on the control plane node. Okay, so if you want to delete it, let's try it by deleting it. Kubectl delete pod static. Okay, you are getting the message that the static pod gets deleted. But is it true? Let's verify this. No, it's not get deleted, but it's got deleted but and restarted again. See the timing. So the age of this particular static pod, it's 9 seconds, and previously it was 16 seconds, because when we executed these commands, it's get deleted. It's get deleted, but it's recreated because this static pod is running through the kubelet, and kubelet monitoring the file only. So if this particular file is present in these locations, it will restart the static pod. You cannot delete it. The only way to delete it to remove this file from this particular locations. Okay, so now jump to the how to create a static pod in a node. Okay, one more thing before I go jump into the to connect to the worker node. I want to tell you that if you want to change the image of this particular static pod, you need to open this file, the static YAML file, and you need to change the image that you want to modify. So each thing what you want to do for the static pod, you need to open the definition file each time to do a modification and save it. SSH node 0. Now I'm connecting to the node. So again the same thing. Let's verify the locations where we have to put the static pod definition file for the node 1. Now grep for kubelet. So just look for the path, the configuration file. Here it is. So varlib config, copy it, okay. Now you can see that here we have the static file, a static path of the static pod path defined here. So we need this is the same as we have for the, but this could be different. It's depend upon your configurations where you want to put the static pod, where you want the kubelet to monitor and watch the static pod definitions file. This is up to you. So this is the configuration you can change as per your convenience. Clear that? Okay, so now go to that particular locations, ls. So here you don't find any particular definitions file for the worker node. So let's create one. Vi static. Let's see one dot YAML. Same as we did previously. Okay, some problem with the key API version, and again the v1. This is the for creating the pod kind, it should be the P capital and pod. Metadata, and give it a good name so that it's better for the understanding. But for the static pod, we will identify very easily because it's get postfixed by the node name itself. So name static worker. Spec again using the busy box. You can use any image. Name static, or you can say static one. Definition file of the any of the YAML format should be perfectly intended. So this is the main thing that you need to always take the precautions. It should be indented properly. Sleep it for, keep it running for 1000 seconds. Sleep. Okay. Now save this file. Now come out from the worker node. kubectl get pod. So now you can see that we have two static pod currently running, one for the master and one for the worker, and the node name is post fixed accordingly, whichever is running for the worker node, node 01 and control. So you can't delete it by similar way in the what we show you previously. You have to remove the file for. Okay, let's do one thing. I want to delete the static pod for the worker node. How can we do that? Let's again go to the SH 01. Okay, go to the path etc Kubernetes manifest. This is the location where we put our file. Remove it. Is it got removed? Check, verify it once again. Okay, come out from the watch. Keep the watch on pod. Okay, no need, no watch required. It's already get deleted. So kubectl get pod. So you can see that now currently one static pod is running, which is for the master only. The worker node on which we created the static pod is deleted because we removed the definition file, and kubelet always monitor that particular locations. If there is any particular definition file has been kept, then it will create a static pod for as per the definition file. So I currently deleted it, and it's deleted the pod also. So this is the only way to delete the static pod. Basically, the static pod requirement is come when you have the master node gets down, and in production some of the emergency requirement that you need to create a pod for some time being till the master node gets up. So you can see that this is a very rare scenario, but very important questions for the exam. But a static pod will be very useful in case of some disaster happen and master node is down and only worker node is running. So Kubelet will only create a static pod. Kubelet can't create a deployment. If you try to put a deployment file, definition file in the same location, it will not create for you, because it's only understand the creating of pod in case of any emergencies. So guys, if you like my video, do subscribe to my channel. It will motivate me and encourage me to build some new videos for you that will be very helpful for the CKA examinations. Also click on the bell icon so that you can get the latest notifications. Share it with your friend, because this is something learning things, and we need to share with, in your group as well. So I keep on putting new videos whenever I get time. So thanks for watching this video, and thanks for your time. Have a good night.